Hello, Aquarius, and welcome to the story of I Am, your 2020 mid-year reading from Planet Waves. My name is Eric Francis Coppolino, your astrologer for the next 40 minutes, here with some good news about what's going on in your solar chart. I think that for all the 12 signs, the sign that's going to notice the events of the next 3 months or so the most distinctly and the most palpably will be Aquarius. The reason I say this is because in mid-December, around the 17th or so, Jupiter and Saturn both enter your sign, which means that they leave Capricorn and they take up residence in your world. Now they're already in your world, but they're in your world in a much more tense way than they're about to be, and it is not necessarily easy to have Saturn in your birth sign. But we're not just talking about Saturn here. We're talking about Saturn in Aquarius, and Saturn is the day ruler of Aquarius, and the combination of Saturn in Aquarius is one of the most potent, powerful, and potentially beneficial combinations in all of astrology. Saturn is a planet that if you don't have Saturn working, you're not going to be able to accomplish much. You're not going to have a particularly easy life. If you have Saturn working, you will be able to hold your self-authority. You'll be able to make decisions. You'll be able to work out your timing. But there's a very wide gap between Saturn not working and Saturn working. And there are many things along the way that must be attempted and advanced upon and completed, and understandings come to in order to get Saturn working. And part of the problem with Saturn is that at its essence, it is not about all of these institutions in society. It is about your ability to structure and lead your own life, by which I mean be the leader of your own life. And in order to do that, there is a lot of challenging, rebelling, revising, overthrowing, redesigning, claiming, building, that one must do to get out of all of the modes of authoritarianism that are imposed on us many different ways, many different times in our life, going way back before we were born, because the expectations on who we were supposed to be were being imposed on us before we even popped out. What was your, when they figured out that you were going to be a girl, was your room painted pink? I mean, the expectations are so heavy placed on children that I don't even think parents should know what sex their kid is going to be before it's born. I guess that's not a thing anymore. I guess everyone just knows, because they're like, taking a sonogram every 12 minutes and, arranging for college admission, and you have your social security number at the end of month 4. But to get out of those expectations, which largely take up residence in us as internal structures, takes work. Now, your solar chart tells me that you are invariably doing some of that work, and that if your life has become harder in the past few years, for some reason, that the reason your life has become harder is because certain movements have occurred in your chart which have encouraged you or enforced or made inevitable the fact that you will do this kind of interpersonal work. So before we get into the retrograde of Mars, I want to start with a little bit different angle in your chart, and then we'll sort through what the retrograde of Mars is about based on this understanding. And in some ways, it is secondary to what I'm about to describe. And this thing I'm about to describe is where I've ended all previous 10 readings. I haven't begun any of the readings here, but because you're in Aquarius and because Saturn and Jupiter are about to enter Aquarius, there is a little bit of light here. Saturn and Jupiter are about to enter Aquarius. This is all about you and all about a tremendous revision in every facet of your existence, meaning a restructuring and an expansion and a sensation of forces coming together that you may not have now. I was going to say no part of this, but what you've had is a kind of a collection, an arcade of parts, but not any sense of the transition of how they come together, which is a kind of a transition, right? So you wouldn't, if you walked into a garage, you've never seen a car before, and you saw a bunch of parts laying around, you might not associate that with being able to drive to California. But if you knew what a car was, you might think, well, I'm just going to put this together, or go to Saugerties and find a couple of Motorhead kids and have them put it together. So here's the car in parts. Well, first of all, actually, here's the whole car, because the whole car is your chart as it is, and this is as it is now. This is the solar chart for Aquarius, and as you can see, I use quite a few planets. All of these planets are slow movers, with a couple of exceptions. I've included Mercury and the Sun because they happen to be in Virgo while I'm doing this, so I just invited Mercury and the Sun. And I've included Mars retrograde. Which is here, and it's also here. And Mars is technically a fast mover, but in its position of being about to go retrograde, one of the distinctions of Mars is it is slowing down to the speed of an outer planet, and is becoming considerably more influential, and has been for a while, but is about to become even more so. But first, let's talk about what's been going on in this very mysterious part of your chart called the 12th house. Let's zoom right in on that with our fancy graphic system here. So we know this is the Aquarius chart because Aquarius covers house 1, first house. So this would count for Aquarius rising, Aquarius sun, possibly Aquarius moon. Anything referencing Aquarius. With Aquarius in the first house or place, I like to call it place because there was not a word, I don't think there was a word for house in ancient Greek, but more shows up as place. It's a habit that I picked up from listening to Rob Hand. Capricorn is the 12th place. So one's the first, one's the last, Alpha and Omega. And the thing about the 12th place, the thing that makes it this mysterious and somewhat strange place, is that it is like a hidden dimension. And I've described this a number of ways, in previous readings, and I'm not sure which one I like the best, but you can think of Aquarius as, the 12th place, as being like like in a movie, like in a James Bond movie, or Get Smart or something. You go into the rich guy's library. He's sitting there at his desk. There's a bookshelf behind the desk, and like he touches the Edgar Allan Poe book, and the thing opens up, and there's like another room back there that nobody would have suspected was going to be there. And that hidden room is the 12th place. The 12th place also represents whatever might be going on the other side of that wall. I have no idea what's going on the other side of that wall, but something is going on every day on the other side of that wall. I don't hear it. I don't see it. I don't know about it. I'm not privy to it. That would count for the 12th place also. And we all carry around a room like this in our charts, and that's the 12th house. And it has a number of properties, including the sensation of things going missing. If you have important planets in there, the sun, the moon, it might mean that one of your parents is missing. It might mean one of your parents died. It might mean one of your parents was in an institution of some kind. There is a kind of a disappearing act that can happen associated with the 12th. And it is also the kind of engine room of the unconscious. Unconscious, subconscious, collective unconscious. I kind of use these terms interchangeably. I'm not Freudian. I'm not a Jungian. But what is lurking below the level of awareness, but is also kind of right there. So it's a little bit like a parallel dimension. And sometimes experienced like in a dream where you normally have a broom closet next to your kitchen, and then one night you dream that you get up from bed and you're walking around and you open the broom closet, and instead of brooms and dust thingies, there's a staircase that goes way up to some other floor that you didn't know existed. That's a very 12th house kind of dreamy type of altered reality. And you've got stuff going on in the 12th. You've had stuff going on, big stuff going on in the 12th since 2008, when Pluto here first entered. Came in around, I think, January of 2008. And there are, and I focused much of my astrological inquiry into Aquarius on the activities of the 12th house since that time. And so if you're curious, just look up old Planet Waves annual editions. I should put a link to those. And you'll just have to poke around Aquarius readings, because every year I interpret this in a slightly different way based on what's coming and going and what the planetary aspects are. And at the moment, you've got a lot of stuff in the 12th house. Long-term visitor Pluto, modestly long-term visitor Saturn, that got there in late 2017. Visitor from this year alone, Jupiter, doing interesting things. Both of these planets have made conjunctions to Pluto. So that was intense. On 112, Saturn made a conjunction to Pluto. That was a big turning point for everything and everyone. And then 3 times, I believe in April, June, and November, Jupiter makes a conjunction to Pluto. Then there's new arrivals, Pholus here and Quaoar. They're going to be here forever in 6 Sundays, like 20 years. And all of that is like way lot of pressure and change and renovation going on in this place in your consciousness that it is difficult to get in, difficult to get out, and you may be experiencing it as a lot of pressure. And a lot of pressure to change, a lot of pressure to grow, a lot of challenge, a lot of difficulty, and other sensations. And it is unlikely to be a comfortable feeling. It is the kind of thing that can make you not want to get up out of bed in the morning, and make you want to just like not deal with the world, because there's so much going on inside of you that even sleeping doesn't give you rest. And at the same time, this tremendous inner pressure represents very urgently necessary working out of deep internal family karma, tribal karma, accumulated experiences in this lifetime, accumulated experiences of past lifetime. All the 12 can represent all of those things, and probably represent some of those things for you. And this will not last long. By mid-December, both Saturn and Jupiter will have left, and they're going to leave behind Pluto, which has been there since 2008. So that will be a return to a potentially familiar feeling, and then also like these two huge, enormous gas bubble planets, gas giants, 2,200 times the size of the Earth, 2,200 times the size of the Earth. If you get like on a airplane and fly to Switzerland, it's like, and you've realized you're traveling just short of the speed of sound, and you're on that airplane for like 7 hours. That's a big planet, and these two planets in there, one is like 900 times the size of the Earth, one is 1,200 times the size of the Earth. That's a lot of stuff. And they each have like 60 moons that come along, and some of the moons are comparable in size and scale and material composition to the Earth. So it's like two whole solar systems lurking around in your 12th house. And it is not only that, but two whole solar systems that have been scraping on and pushing and pulling and squeezing and being changed by and altering and all. Pluto, the anti-planet at the edge of the universe, Pluto is actually 6 bodies. It's Pluto, Charon, Hydra, Nix, and I can't name the other two. I should be able to. And they're all orbiting in this kind of thing with the center of the thing is not inside either of them. The barycenter, that's Pluto, and that's Charon, whatever they want to call it, and the barycenter is outside with the Earth-Moon system. The barycenter is inside the Earth, so it's technically a moon. But with the Pluto-Charon system, the barycenter is outside of Pluto, and so it is a binary pair. So it's actually 6 things orbiting a point in the middle. It's a crazy, beautiful thing. And all of this has been, all of these like 120 planets, counting all the moons, are doing a whole bunch of stuff in there that you only may be dimly aware of, because it's like, please make it stop, and like, when is this pressure going to come off of me? And it will. And this began a little bit from between March and June. Saturn dipped its toe into Aquarius and then retrograded back into Capricorn. And now you're in this approximately 3.5 month phase of the end of Saturn in Capricorn, which in itself is of top level importance, because it represents a phase of completion that you may or may not ever experience again the rest of your life, because Saturn will be back in Capricorn in 27 years, but you have much better things to look forward to than that. But what I'm suggesting is that you have very big developments coming, a major phase of growth and advancement. And what I'm here today to encourage you to do is to keep focusing the inner work with all of your power and on all of your ability to devote your attention to this inner work, so that when the world itself changes, when you change, when these planets essentially become part of your normal waking life, when you emerge into this new being that you are becoming, and many patterns change. One of the great challenges of Aquarius is that it is a fixed sign, and it may be the most fixed of the fixed signs. And I just say this from observation. I mean, we have a couple of other options. One is Scorpio, one is Taurus, and then Leo are the other options. I would say Taurus would come in a close second, but there's something about Aquarius that locks in and crystallizes patterns. And your personality, whether you're sun, moon, or rising, is strongly influenced by this crystallizing power that tends to lock in patterns, and makes it seem like sometimes not very appealing to change, not very appealing to move on, not very appealing to learn new things, and can be a real source of stress if you've taken the road of Aquarius, where the patterns become brittle. With all of this activity going on behind the scenes in Capricorn, you are working out planets going around and around. I mean, just like look up some of these things and like get graphical representations and imagine all of that going on deep behind the scenes of your life, where you don't have much say or much control, but what you can do is you can choose to facilitate the process by giving yourself a lot of alone time, by paying very close attention to your dreams, by paying close attention to your imagination. And if you feel called upon to do some kind of work like write your dreams down every day, keep a diary every day, which would be a wise thing to do. You call it the last 100 days of Saturn and Capricorn. Or if you happen to have a therapist you work with who is really hip to the inner life, do that. Be there, do that. Work that out on the inside. There's one other thing that the 12th house references that I have never seen described in a Western astrology book or article of any kind, unless I wrote it. And I learned it from Callie Halverson, the late feminist astrologer with whom I hung out once for a while in San Francisco. It was wonderful. She has sadly passed on, and I miss her badass motherfucker self. And she said, well, in my study of Vedic astrology, she said, the 12th house is the house of the pleasures of the bed. So never forget the important sexual component of the 12th house. And we see that in the pleasures of the bed being experienced as a world apart, like this, you might have this profound sexual experience that starts at 12:30 in the morning, and ends at 4 in the morning, and then you fall asleep and you wake up and you wonder if it even happened. So that's a very 12th house expression of sexuality. But if we just take the guidance of of Callie saying, look for sexual themes in the 12th. The thing to work out are the elements of your sexuality that you feel are the most taboo. The things you would be the least likely to say to others that you might not even admit to yourself. That's how I think of the 12th. I think of the 8th, which is, normally the house of sex and secrets. As I like to quote Bono, a secret is something you tell one other person. In the spirit of the 12th house, a secret is something you don't even want to tell yourself. So what I propose is that you take the opportunity of all this very unusual activity in your 12th house, which is building to its final peak as Jupiter makes a conjunction to Pluto, which completes in November. Before Jupiter enters, it makes completes its third conjunction to Pluto. And that is exciting. It is interesting, and it makes all of these 12th house topics a little more tangible, because the 12th has this vapid feeling. It could just go away. Like you wake up and you can't remember what you dreamed. Like that's a very 12th house thing. And it was so important when you were dreaming it, and then you wake up and it's like, what was I even dreaming? Let's take this from another angle. Let's take it from the angle of Aries. I'm fond of revealing the one thing about the solar chart that I think makes each sign, guys, the most interesting. And it is the most explanatory of the sign in a way that is intriguing and like says something. Maybe it doesn't. So Aquarius is often thought of as like the brainiac sign of ideas and people who are really smart. And on the long list of things I've never seen mentioned in an astrology book, I think that the astrological illustration of that is the placement of the sign Aries in your solar chart. Here's one Aquarius solar chart with current planets put in. Most of these things are going to be in their position for years. With Aries on the first place, you have Pisces on the second place. Sorry, Aquarius on the first place. Got Aries on my mind. Pisces on the second place. And Aries on the third place. And my Aries theory, particularly in the solar chart, is that where you have Aries is where you seek to really be yourself and find yourself. Where you identify with a certain character trait or way of being. And the third is about ideas. And so one thing about Aquarius is a sign that's very associated with its ideas is that having the third house covered by Aries suggests that you are going to very strongly identify with your ideas. And this is going to create that effect. And ideas can be ideation. Ideas can be actual ideas, like you actually think of things and want to initiate them in the world in some way. And here's where a lot of action is. First of all, Chiron has arrived there as of 2018 and 2019. So that's putting high focus and almost making like an identity crisis of ideas in your mind. Salacious there. That is the principle of sexual maturity. Is it salacious or is it just wholesome erotic? Like salacious is scandalous and put the sizzle in and sex it up and all this, and wholesome erotic is this is a way of humans expressing themselves in a productive and creative way that works. I don't think that salacious and scandalousness work very well for anything positive. Eris has been here for a long time, since the 1920s. And By the way, speaking of Eris, which was recently accompanied by Uranus in Aries, there is a teaching central, I think, to Aries right now, which is about reclaiming yourself from the internet, reclaiming your ideas, reclaiming your concepts, reclaiming your identity, reclaiming your avatars from the internet. Be you on the internet rather than function under various names, which I think is very detrimental and tends to split the character. Claim yourself back from the internet any way that you possibly can. Bring yourself into the physical world, and when you project yourself into the internet, make sure you're fully conscious of what you're doing, and also that you are committed to being absolutely real in the process of doing so. This is a tricky question with the third house covered by Aries, because so much of what we do and who we are and who we meet and who we become and all of that is associated with and takes part on the internet. So how you would extract yourself from that would be one thing at a time. It would be about working your local community as best you can. Local community would be anything within 15-minute driving range. Your really immediate surrounds, and do as much of your business there and know as many people as you can there, and have a sense of the conditions on the ground, and be known for who you are in your community. Now let's add Mars to the equation. Mars has not been retrograde in Aries since 1988. So for some people watching, never. For some would be when you were 10. For some, for me, it was when I was 24. Wow, that's a while ago. And for some, when you were a young adult in some form or older, but 32 years is a long time for something not to happen in a sign, given that thing happens every 2 years. And what, the retrograde is going to take place here, and the place that Aries, that Mars is usually retrograde is like around here, and it tends to avoid around here. So, but it's happening. It's happening. And in the process of happening, it is going to retrograde into a second conjunction with Eris, which is more get in your body, get your ideas in your body, associate yourself with your physical presence rather than your digital presence. Make your deals and arrangements in person. Visit your neighbors. Don't just email them. Try not to be hired by a robot. Try to go for job interviews where you can call the person up, or you put the thing in the mail and the robot doesn't ever have it, something like that. So it's going to retrograde past Eris again, and then it's going to stir up this little trilogy, plus Pallas Athene. I'm sure she's happy we painted her in pink. Stir up this cluster of planets, which, as we talked about in the first part of the reading, is this whole inner experience that you're having of changing and morphing and structures breaking down and liberating energy from your ancestors and coming to terms with your sexuality and essentially integrating yourself. And so Mars is going to accelerate that process. Mars is provoking that process. Mars is making that possible in an immediate and concentrated way that's going to take place over the next approximately 10 weeks. Technically, Mars stations direct on 11/13, but after it does that, it's going to pretty much stay where it is for a while. The station of Mars takes a while because the Earth and Mars are moving at about the same speed, and so they're hanging out in a similar alignment relative to everything else, and so it's a long process. We're really looking at something like, I'm recording on the 30th of this piece, 3 months from now. You have about 3 months to accelerate all this stuff going on in your 12th. But one of the key differences between the 12th and the 3rd is that the 12th, as mentioned, is the sign of secrets, the house of secrets that you keep from yourself. That your unconscious is trying to smooth over, and the ego trying to, your frontal lobe comes on and says, you're not going to remember all that stuff that you dreamed and all those people you met. And what were you doing, sitting naked in the middle of the road and all this? The 3rd wants to express reality. So there is something here about doing that challenging translation work of the unspeakable and the thinkable and the unknowable, and translating it into the speakable, the thinkable, the knowable, and the expressible, and to not only integrate these things in the abstract, but to integrate them into your physical, actual being and your personality, and to be what you discover that you are. If you make a discovery of what you are in doing some deep inner work or therapy work, or have a dream revelation, incorporate that into who you actually are, and be the secret person who you are. This is the work of personality integration. This is the work of not leaving aspects of yourself behind. It's the work of being honest with yourself. It's the work that makes it possible for you to be honest with other people and to be an honest, upfront member of your community. And I will tell you that you are much safer being an honest and upfront member of your community than you are having any secrets. There was a time when having secrets was the way to go, and you had to keep things quiet. But now we're not in that time anymore. And we are now in a time when not authenticity. Authenticity is pretty much an act. I mean actually being the person that you are on the inside. Not the definition of authentic that others would have you be if they thought you were a good person. Big difference here. And practice this. And then as Jupiter and Saturn move into your sign, you will have the benefits of these large chunks of psychic material which you have been trying to digest psychically and process and move through you, will be integrated into you, and then you just enter a new reality of Saturn in your sign and Jupiter in your sign. I mean, this is great stuff, and you want to be open to the movement and flexible, and do all that work of flexibility before this happens. And 3 months may not seem like a long time. Saturn's been in Capricorn for 3 years, but it is true that 3 months can be an excellent amount of time to complete some things that you've very likely started, and to take some things from beginning, middle, and end, right, in that time. And time is compressed right now in a lot of ways, and the retrograde of Mars is adding a kind of an alchemical accelerant to your process of self-becoming. So good stuff here. In many ways, the best of all possible situations, and I'm curious to hear how these transits manifest for you next year. I'll have more to say about them Respect for Aquarius is done. I'll be doing a 2021 annual and your birthday reading. Good. Okay, so please watch your rising sign. Please share this with anybody you think might benefit from seeing it, and thank you for your trust and your business. And bye for now.